Dr. Angela McBrady of DoctorFlute.com, and you can get a good tone on a beginner flute. I have here a beginner flute. Now it is open hole, but it is still a beginner flute. This is a Trevor James beginner flute, and it happens to belong to my daughter who is taking flute. She started with the plugs in when she was probably 4th grade, and now has the plugs out. But it is a beginner flute, and I was just playing that at the beginning. I have students ask me, and parents as well, ask me all the time, is it really important to spend the big bucks on a flute? Should I be getting a professional flute in the $10,000 to $20,000 range? And also, for the step-up flutes, as they call them, the intermediate flutes, what price range, can they afford? What should we go to? Because there's a huge range of intermediate flutes before you get into that professional level. What's necessary for their students? Well, each student I take on an individual basis and recommend to that parent what is needed for that particular student. But I have said many times, for some, they don't necessarily need to be spending a whole lot more on their flutes, because you can get a good tone on a beginner flute. I've had a student who got such a phenomenal tone on his beginner flute that when he did move up to a solid silver flute, because silver does change your sound a little bit, and he went to a solid silver flute, the change in his tone wasn't that obvious. Not as obvious as it is to other students who move up. His tone was phenomenal to begin with, and it just got maybe a little bit more phenomenal. But I've been playing this flute, and I think that the tone is really very nice, and if I use all the skill that I have and what I know to get a good tone, this can sound good. Something that might be tripping me up a little bit is that my flute has an inline G. So I'm unused to having to reposition my fingers. So I'm playing along with this flute a little bit. Sometimes I miss that G because I'm overshooting and I'm putting my finger too far in. But when I play this flute, if I think about opening up my throat, I'm opening up my embouchure, I'm using all the tools I know to get a good tone. This can give it to me. Now, all beginner flutes perhaps aren't made on the same level. There are some beginner flutes that I've had students get, and they just weren't very good. Either they needed all new pads because their Aunt Mary played it when she was in high school and hasn't played it for 20 years, and now it's been given to little Mary, and the flute just needs to go into the shop and get all new pads and get a clean oil and adjust. But there's other times where there's a beginner flute that just is not very good. So, are all beginner flutes made the same? Maybe not. But if you feel like your flute plays well, it's functioning properly, the pads are good, it's had a clean and oil adjust, you've had a technician look at that flute, then by playing it, you can get a good tone. Intermediate is a nice level to move up to, and solid silver, this is not solid silver, but yet it has a nice sound to it. Play a little bit of a Kohler etude for you here if I don't overshoot this G. Something that I noticed that maybe is a little different, my professional level flute, the mechanisms maybe aren't, are perhaps a little bit more subtle. I feel that I don't need to push my fingers down quite as hard as on this, but that's just a small thing and that's not affecting the tone. If you can get your fingers to move on your beginner flute, they will work that way on any flute. It's the tone. If you can get a good tone, you can make any flute work. So when you're deciding on buying a new flute, how much money should you spend? Think about this. Get the tone that you should get on your beginner flute, and then decide whether you actually need to spend that money, or can you function with the flute you have and still be spectacular. So take a listen closely, work hard at getting a good tone on the flute you have, and then make that decision on whether you should improve or upgrade to the next level. But make sure that your flute is functioning. That's probably the best thing you can do to your beginner flute, is have someone look at it. Make sure you have new pads. Make sure that it's a clean oil and adjust, or as technicians call it, a COA. And then play that flute and go through all of my flute tips on tone production and learn. I have a course on 5 methods to improve your tone today, and work on those things. You will be happy you do, and your tone on this can be spectacular. If you like this video, press the like button, subscribe, comment below, and share it with your friends.